We wanted to create a world where there are zero barriers. So we started with just education for STEM using sign language. But then now we've gone on to providing employment opportunities for these straight-involved kids. How the robot works is that when someone speaks, whatever you're speaking, it signs back. Have you ever had to defend a robot from not going to jail?
Well, hello, Greaterverse listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Greaterverse. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Kruk, and I'm so happy you've chosen to join me today on the podcast. For those of you who aren't familiar with the podcast, the Greaterverse is your weekly dose of feel-good. We get plenty of news on all of the things that are going wrong with the world, but sometimes it's just good to have a break and hear some good news for a change. Today, I am joined all the way from Kenya by an absolute rock star, Norah Kimathi from Zerobionic. Norah is focused on making STEM education accessible to hearing-impaired students across the globe. STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, consists of highly technical and complex areas, which requires equally complex signing. Making education accessible to hearing-impaired students ensures that these young people can have equal opportunities to those around them. On her way to solving this problem, Norah has also managed to tackle plastic waste, sustainable robotic materials, lifting kids out of poverty, and climate education. So basically, a remarkable overachiever who happens to be incredibly humble. She will share stories of her personal and professional journey and about the worlds of robotics and AI. This podcast is about inclusion, entrepreneurship, creative problem solving, and what happens when robots go rogue.
Really great to be here. I think we've been planning to have this for the longest. So finally being here on your podcast today is really amazing. And I can't wait to dive deep into this topic that we are talking about today.
Likewise, and I think I told you from the beginning, I just have the utmost respect for what you're doing because you are tackling some pretty major challenges that exist in the world. But before I go off on how amazing it is what you're doing, I'd love to hear a little bit more, and I'm sure the listeners would as well. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you came to found Zerobionic.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I'll just take you back to when I was 12. So I really had a deep interest in science. I will say science, anything science-based, it will definitely bamboozle me, for lack of a bigger word to describe it by. But anything science, anything tech, anything engineering would really amaze me. And I think I carried that on to when I was 16. So when I was 16, I decided, oh, I can actually start something in that line that can help people. And I can also be following my passion as a result of that as well. So at 16, I started my own company. It was called Clyteds. So it was a climate health technology company. You know, at that time, since you're just 16, you don't have fancy words to call an initiative that you're starting. So it was just as simple as that. So it was meant to be a technology platform that was helping kids that were facing climate-related health issues. So more of using tech and science to come up with solutions that would help them. So I was just, handling two things that I love, impact and science and tech. So fast forward to when I joined university, I still had that passion for STEM. So me and my co-founder were moving from school to school, training students in STEM because he was also a robotics, I wouldn't say nerd, but he really loved robotics. So we both loved STEM. So as we were training these young kids, we came across some hearing impaired students, some who could actually not hear and some who could also not speak. So we looked at the sign language interpreter who was interpreting at that time as we were speaking, and he just looked at us and told us, by the way, there are no signs for the technical words you're trying to explain. So he folded his hands the whole time and just looked at us. So what we had to do was pull out images of what you were trying to explain and the corresponding words and teach using that. So you can imagine what was meant to be a 1-hour session was over 7 hours of frustration. So I think from that point, we decided we can't continue like this. And at that time, my co-founder was as well building things in robotics. So at that time, he was building something for people with motor disabilities, or rather motor impairments. So he was building arms, legs, and at that time now we had this crisis where we had to solve a problem in sign language. So that's when we were like, okay, we have an arm here, sign language is done using hands. Why can't actually we connect the two? And that's where we came about. It actually came from such a funny point where we had these two solutions or other problems on the table, and we decided, okay, actually we have A and B, and they can come together to solve a problem. And that's where everything just kind of like started off.
I think that's incredible. And I think it goes to show you have that innate entrepreneurial spirit, right? You discovered a problem and wanted to build a solution around it. Where did the name Zerobionic come from?
We wanted to create a world where there are zero barriers and have zero amount of people being left out in this kind of, STEM educational content, or just having zero barriers in general, just in any kind of space. And we were obviously using bionic arms at that time. So I think that's combining the two, zero and bionic, that's where it came from. I don't know if you know the Zero Project. They mostly award organizations that are breaking barriers in the world, so in the disability space. So it could be through people who can't walk, people who can't hear, people who can see. So recently got an award with them, and after looking at their name, they're actually called Zero Project, and we thought to ourselves, we are called Zero Bionic. So turns out everyone is thinking the same way we are, 000. So
Well,
it's
it's a
really
good
amazing
sign
to
you're on the
see.
right track.
Definitely.
And in terms of, where you've gone with Zero Bionic, what have been your focuses so far?
Yeah, so initially the problem actually started when we were training STEM. So we started with STEM education, and then so we used to just 3D print the robotic arms. But then we realized that when it comes to technology, when it comes to robotics, when it comes to really high tech products, they really produce a lot of waste energy, or rather they pollute the environment. And right now climate issues are a very big thing. So we try as much as possible to show that as much as we are advancing in technology, we also can conserve the environment. It doesn't need to be a one downside of the other. So one can actually offset the other. So that's when we decided, okay, so this robotic components can also be made through recycled plastics. So we started providing green jobs, so employment opportunities for street children who collect these plastic wastes, or rather PET bottles, and discarded tires, and then we mix them up together and form this spool. So this spool is now used to make our robotic exoskeleton. So we started with just education for STEM using sign language, but then now we've gone on to providing employment opportunities for these street involved kids. And then now, instead of just focusing on teaching STEM, we also teach climate education to these hearing impaired individuals, because actually globally we have more than 1.5 billion people who have some sort of hearing impairment. So all those people are probably being left out of climate education. So as much as we are talking about everyone being climate conscious, let's all learn and know about the effects of this, and this, we also need to involve these people so that they can also be environmentally cautious.
You were talking about how you saw that there was a gap in terms of signing for hearing impaired students learning STEM subjects. In the products that you've created, how does it actually work?
So how it works is that we have a Zoom-like platform on one end and the robotic exoskeleton on the other. So you, as the trainer, as you're speaking, whatever you're speaking is being directly translated into sign language by the robotic exoskeleton in the schools where they are located. So let's say you're in a school such as you're in a school in the UK where the robotic skeleton is, and I'm in Kenya and I'm teaching a lesson in engineering. So whatever I'm speaking right now, I don't need to know sign language. The robot is receiving the communication, so it's just directly channeling it and it's converting it into signs. So a classroom full of hearing impaired students can just comfortably have the robot there, and you as a trainer, you're just speaking. So both of you have that two-way communication. However, the other doesn't need to know your form of communication. So there's that feedback loop because the robot has a camera embedded on it on its chest. So whatever the students want to ask, whatever they want to give feedback on, it directly receives it on its end using the camera now embedded on it.
That is incredible. It's just such a wonderful use of the technology we have, and I think it's so creative. So congratulations on coming up with that. How long did it take from you coming up with the idea to you actually being able to implement it and have something in real life?
I think one notion we live by is that immediately we think about something, we have to do it, because there are so many ideas in the world, everyone is getting ideas. So the quicker you do it, or the first one to get to the finish line is the one who owns the idea. So immediately we just thought about it, we got on ground. And I feel like that's why just at a young age, we've been able to reach this far, because we never wait. It just took us, I would say, not less, or rather not more than 2 months, because just coming up with the schools you're going to go to and pilot this technology, because already we had the arms. It was just a matter of now tailoring it to whatever idea we now had. So we were just doing it on the go, iterating as we moved through the research and development process. And I think it has really helped us, because at this point we started with just basic arms, but now we've developed to just full humanoid robots in a matter of just 2 years.
I mean, 2 months is impressive. You mentioned that you started with the arm and it's now a much more sophisticated exoskeleton. Is there further work that you're doing on that now to take it even to the next level?
Yes, I think just taking us back to when we started with the robotic arms. So you realize that there is so much to sign language. It's not only whatever you're speaking or signing, it's so much more. So it's the facial expressions that you're giving off. So there's just so much that goes into it. And we wanted to bring that humanity aspect to the classrooms, whereby these other kids are not saying, oh, these people have actually a real life teacher, and for us, we just have an arm. So that's when we decided, okay, let's actually move from just normal arms to now full-on robots that can embody a whole human being. How many markup points do you think you have on your face?
This is unexpected, a question directed back to you. I don't actually know. I imagine we have thousands, or is that too much?
Billions, actually.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
so I think that's when we were like, okay, let's now not just have an arm that is not very accurate and has a time delay. Let's move to now the full-on robots. So at the moment, that's our current focus. So just having a robot that can actually even move from class to classroom, because especially in context where maybe one robot is serving the whole school. So after a lesson, it can just carry its feet and go to the next classroom, where now we can ensure that they have the same quality of education as all of us.
You started with the robot, the exoskeleton, translating speech into sign language. And you've spoken about how you also wanted to make this sustainable. So how did that come into what you were doing? How did you decide to start using recycled plastics to make your products?
Yeah. So I remember I was talking about how with the advancements in technology, AI, just all these high tech things that are coming up, there's a lot of energy that is being dissipated in the process. So we decided, why can't one offset that? And especially for Africa, plastic waste is a very big problem, whereby wherever you're walking, plastic is clogging waterways. It's just causing a lot of harm to the drainage systems. So we decided, why can't we actually solve two problems at one given point in time? then came up the issues of, people with no jobs, street involved kids. And that's when we decided, instead of us collecting it by ourselves, let's have a triple effect whereby we now employ these people to get some form of employment, and then they help their families. And if it's young people, once they collect these bottles, or rather these plastics and tires, we give them books to go read in school. So we're just trying to solve many problems at one given point in time, because you can never really solve. There are so many problems in the world, by the way. It's just a matter of you picking which problem to solve and just making
Yeah.
a difference in society. So we now decided to pick up that and, just give them that form of employment. And then now from that point, we now opened up recycling plants in different parts of Kenya. I think that's when we kind of like now decided we are moving away from metal and now building these robots with these recycled plastics. And it really helped us offset a lot. We were able to offset over 60% of waste that we were producing, and it reduced our cost insanely. And as a result, we got awarded the presidential award, because we were solving two crises at the same time. And this is something that is, very new, because sustainable robotics is
Yeah.
unheard of. So hopefully we can be able to just show the world that it's possible. We don't need to destroy the environment while we are building something so amazing and wonderful. And at the end of the day, just have as I like to call it, a happy world that is healthy and safe.
Yeah, that's a great attitude, and what an amazing example as well, because I think often people feel overwhelmed. Like you said, there are so many different problems in
True.
the world and we can't solve all of them. But I think what you've shown is that just by trying to solve one problem, you've actually been able to solve a whole lot of other ones. So, helping hearing impaired students has helped you with sustainability. You're helping kids earn money for their families, but also get an education. And I think the broader impact that you're having as well, right, is you're showcasing this to the rest of the world. So hopefully the rest of the world can get on board and learn from the amazing things that you've been doing. Whereabouts did you start, and how broad is your reach now?
So we started in a school in Kenya. Then so we did 78 schools. I remember that was back in 2023. And after we did that, we got noticed by the Global Learning Council. So getting noticed by the Global Learning Council and winning a STEM Enabler Award with them, kind of like provided a stepping stone for us to now open up into the global markets. And that's when we now started piloting in Switzerland, actually opened some labs there. Then we moved on to Australia, then moved on to Namibia, Rwanda. So we're currently in 12 countries. And so 2026 is looking like a ripe year where we are hoping to now expand into more markets and, just definitely put the impact out there, because at the moment, especially for Africa, we have no common standardized African Sign Language dataset. So like how we have, American Sign Language dataset or British Sign Language dataset. So it's a bit hard to build on that. So kind of like building that, and then also building a STEM sign language dataset as well, that is very complex. And not having any foundation on that is very, very, very is a very daunting task. However, we are up for it. And now, since now each individual country in Africa has its own dialect. That's why we have to move into different parts very quickly so that we get this technology to them. Because if it's Rwanda, they have Rwandan Sign Language. If it's Kenyan, Kenyan Sign Language. So I think that's now what is causing us to now say for 2026 we have to go to very many African countries just to kind of like get that broader reach. So at the moment as we speak, we're in 12 African countries, just like doing more of R&D and more iterations as we speak.
So it sounds like you've got a pretty full-on schedule with all the things that you're trying to do. A question regarding the number of students that you've reached now. So obviously you started in the one school, you've just said you're now in 12 countries in Africa, but you're also global as well. How many hearing impaired students have you reached today?
Yeah, so I think we usually have a special focus on women and girls who are hearing impaired. So every time we focus on just kind of like reaching out into these schools, we focus on them. So as we speak, we've impacted 120,000 women and girls. And then in total, everyone who's been able to just become a beneficiary of our products or other our programs are 500,000. So we are hoping to reach 1 million by the end of 2026. Bold vision, however, I think for the longest they've been excluded. However, I think they're the brightest of minds that we have. It's just that we haven't tapped into that potential yet.
Given that you are focusing on girls in STEM, hearing impaired girls, obviously, and what is your hope that once they get this education through the products that you offer, what is your hope for them afterwards?
Yeah, I think many of the times they're taught that they can't be pilots or doctors. And probably I'll throw a question back at you again. Have you ever encountered with a deaf pilot?
No, and to be honest, Nora, I don't think I've encountered very many female pilots. So we're at one starting point below. So yes, I can understand where this is going. Zero is definitely the answer, I would say.
Most of the time they're convinced, rather they are told that once you're done with school, you can either go into middle income jobs or low income jobs because that's how society was tailored for them. However, for us, we want to change that narrative. We were actually doing a study, and I think I just mentioned it previously that most of these people are so bright because they don't have access to the noise of the world like we do. So they just have a lot of time with their thoughts. They have a lot of time to just sit down and think. So for us, it's just about increasing the number of these hearing impaired individuals in STEM, just increasing the engagement, increasing their performance, because 2% of these kids actually are the ones who get to achieve their career aspired goals or even get to complete schools. Because it reaches a point where you're in a classroom, the lecturer or the teacher is teaching science or technology, you don't understand, you're only nodding the whole time. So they just opt to drop out, and that shouldn't be the case. So for us, it's a matter of how many of these people can we retain in the education system, how many can graduate, how many can be in these engineering courses. So it's just bringing them into the picture. And I think our mission is usually enable every dream and empower every sign.
I think that's beautiful. I love that. Given that AI is such a hot topic at the moment, I wanted to ask you how you're leveraging AI in what you're doing.
So AI is actually at the core of our technology. When you're telling a student, react chlorine and methane, and come up with a product of that, and then do the mole equation of it, balance the equation, and just trying to teach that in sign language is mind blowing. I remember my chemistry classes, and when I think about it right now, I'm just I wouldn't want to go back. I wouldn't want to go back. I don't know if you did chemistry.
I did chemistry in my second last year of high school, and I can categorically say it's hard enough. It's hard enough learning it when you can fully understand it. Let alone if you're a sign language interpreter who isn't specialized in chemistry, then it must be really difficult for you to explain that concept. So I can totally understand why there is that gap.
Yes, definitely. So now when it comes to AI and such, new and upcoming and advanced technology, we are able to teach, train, and improve over time. The good thing with AI is that it can learn by itself. So whenever it makes a mistake, or even while you're in the process of teaching, it can be in the background, just constantly learning something new. So I think now that accuracy and precision that we're looking for when it comes to such complex matters in chemistry, science, or math, we just definitely needed to have AI included in our technology. So that's how it comes into play when we talk about Zerobionic.
And what would you say to people who are worried about the impact of AI?
Hmm. I think I get this question so often because, especially when it comes to robots, everyone is usually telling me, what if the robots come under my bed at night and just
To
take care
take
of me?
over the world.
Funny story, actually. There's a time we had one of our pilots in Rwanda. How the robot works is that when someone speaks, whatever you're speaking, it signs back. So we were doing it at a tech conference. The sign language interpreters are usually there. However, for most big tech conferences that are mostly talking about very complex engineering things, yes, the sign language interpreter might be there. However, on very rare occurrences, would they be signing the engineering concepts being explained? So we try as much as possible to bring in that aspect. As someone was speaking from the audience, when we were trying to demonstrate how the technology works, we hadn't trained the robot to not to not allow outside interference to affect how it's going to be signing. So someone on the road outside, I don't know what was going on, but then there was a lot of noise. So that interfered with how it was receiving information of the person who was speaking in the audience for us to do the demo. So it ended up signing a vulgar word. And then
No.
how it works is that whenever it's signing on the screen embedded on its chest, it writes the word of whatever it's signing. You know what I mean? Like, so from word to sign to text. So it ended up signing something vulgar. Have you ever had to defend a robot from not going to jail? So I think
Oh my
that was
goodness, Nora.
I think that was the station for us at that point, but we ended up defending it. We didn't pay bail, but it was quite a roller coaster. But I think first things first, the race for robotics and AI and just technology in general is really fast paced as we speak. I mean, every morning I wake up and I just see a notification. There's this new advanced technology that has been released by this certain company. So companies are just coming up. You can just sleep for 3 days and when you wake up, there's just so much that has happened. So if you decide not to move with the pace or the trends of how things are moving, you're going to be left behind. So I think it's something that is coming. So we just need to learn how to adapt to it. I had a conversation yesterday with someone I mentor, and they were asking me which career path they should take. And at this point, you just need to look for a job where if you're replaced by AI, the skills that you got can take you to another job. So it's just a matter of always constantly upskilling and looking for a job or career that is going to give you skills to move to somewhere else. So I'm not saying they're going to replace us, but we need to always be constantly pulling up our socks, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I think there's no use being scared of AI because it is here. It's already in so much of what we do. And if it's used the right way, like you're doing, it can be so powerful and it can do things that we just don't have the ability to do at scale. And I think one of the things that you're talking about and that you've said through the conversation is just the ability to create inclusion, right? These are students that would have been left out of the education system, that wouldn't have been given the same kind of opportunities. But because of the technology that you're using, you're able to offer something that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I just think that's magical. And so I think it's a matter of finding the positives and the power in AI, right? And how we best use it. You spoke about one of the challenges that has happened during your course of running Zerobionic, but I wanted to ask you, what has been one of the most joyous moments that you've had in Zerobionic?
It just takes me back to the third pilot that we had in Kenya, where a young student just came up to me and told me, I'm super grateful because for the first time, I can actually engage with the people in my class when we are being taught. And she literally cried. She literally cried, Anne Marie. Honestly, it was the most touching moment of my life and the happiest as well because it just showed that whatever we are doing is actually impacting this race. They never thought such a technology could come and enable them to associate with the rest when it comes to understanding what is being taught in science. So that was honestly the happiest day of my life. Nothing has topped that yet. Hopefully it will as we continue expanding, but nothing has topped that moment till today.
It's such a genuine, authentic moment, and it goes back to the fact that you're making impact, and you can actually hear from the people that you've designed the products for. You can actually hear from them that it is changing their lives. So I think that's beautiful.
And being able to just help uplift communities where we are, being able to just show that technology can be locally made and can have global impact is also one of the biggest highs that I've had as we speak. It just shows that honestly, really, you are going beyond yourself, you and your team. Honestly, I wouldn't even attribute it just to me. I have an amazing team behind me.
You started your first business at the age of 16, which is incredible, and there aren't a huge amount of people out there who would have the courage and the bravery to do that. What advice would you give to young people, in particular, maybe young women who are thinking about starting their own business?
I think for the longest, one thing I've always told people that I mentor, young students or young girls that I mentor, is that half the people in the room you're in don't know what they're doing or what they're saying for that matter. So if you feel like you don't know what you're saying, just say it. Honestly, just say it. That one person will hear your idea, will believe in your vision, and will help you steer it. I think for the longest, I'd always thought, yes, I might know what I'm doing. However, how many people want to hear what I'm doing? But the moment I started speaking about it on social media, just putting the word out there about what I'm building and doing, people took interest in it. So if you have that idea, don't shun yourself down. Just put it out for the world to see. You never really know whose life you can change, which impact you can have, and who will hear your story.
I think sometimes it is just taking that step forward. Who have been the most important people in your life as you've gone through the process of building Zerobionic and building your career in this space?
Yeah, I definitely would start off by my co-founder. He's really been instrumental when it comes to that. We've really gotten huge support from our school as well, from our friends and family, and definitely from God. So super grateful for that.
The important people and spiritual support. We need it all. Do you have a mentor? Has there been a particular mentor that's been with you on this journey?
How it works in my university is that once you join your first year, you receive a mentor who guides you through all your 4 years of university. So the mentor I received was called Eunice, Dr. Eunice, and she really believed in me. So she actually encouraged me to be more courageous, speak up more, show people what I've been doing. And fast forward to after I joined a competition when I was in my second year of university, I happened to get a mentor from Botswana who was called Ontifile. And she's really been also helpful from that point till now.
I think we all need strong mentors, and I think most people will say that there's been someone who's helped them along the way, right? Who can share their experience, and hopefully you can learn from their mistakes, and they can support you when you make your mistakes, because let's face it, we all make them. So looking to the future, and the future is incredibly bright, we know that. But if you're looking, say, 10 years in the future, where would you like Zerobionic to be? And where do you see yourself, Norah, as well?
Yeah, so for Zerobionic, we're looking forward towards being the leading global edtech enabler in Africa and hopefully on the globe for hearing impaired individuals. We're looking forward to impacting more and more students. So by the end of 2026, having impacted 1 million students, not only in Africa, but as well around the globe. Because hearing impaired individuals are everywhere. And if we want to promote inclusivity, we have to have a global reach. We are also looking towards ensuring that as we continue scaling, we are conserving the environment. So the 2,000 tons of plastics that we want to recycle are still in the plane by the end of 2026. And with that, we can be able to now establish our hubs, 10 more hubs in Africa and 5 more in the Europe countries. We are here to help. We are making for these people, and we are as well actually co-creating with them. We have a number of these hearing impaired individuals in our team who help build these technologies, if they understand these people. So we are building with and for them.
Co-creation is so important. The people who are using the product at the end are the people who really need to help support on the co-creation journeys. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, for sure.
It has been so inspiring chatting to Norah today, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. If you want to hear more about Zerobionic and the work they're doing, you can check out their website, and I'll share the details in the comments section. I'd love for you to join me next week on the Greaterverse. I will be sharing some details in the lead up to next week, but as always, we will be talking to someone incredible. Please like, share, subscribe, add your comments, let us know what you think, and thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, Greaterverse, over and out.